Some places are so cursed, even Google said, yep, we're not going in there. 1. Centralia, Pennsylvania. The eternal BBQ gone wrong. Once a normal mining town, Centralia is now a ghost city permanently on fire, literally. Back in 1962, someone thought burning trash in a coal pit was a genius idea. That spark lit an underground inferno that's still burning today. The ground cracks, smoke rises, and temperatures hit 900 degrees in spots, yet the government only half evacuated it. Google Street View tried to map it, but gave up halfway through like a pizza delivery guy realizing the address is hell, but smokier. The few remaining residents still live there, casually surrounded by lethal fumes. When your zip code doubles as a health warning, it's safe to say you've earned your curse. 2. Pripyat, Ukraine. The town that glows in the dark. Built for Chernobyl workers, Pripyat was supposed to be a model Soviet city. It ended up as the world's creepiest open-air museum. In 1986, the reactor exploded, and the residents were told they'd be temporarily relocated. Spoiler, they never came back. The Ferris wheel stands frozen mid-spin, schools are filled with gas masks, and wild dogs outnumber people 100 to 1. When Google's Street View van entered, the radiation levels were so high that the camera had to be encased like it was going on a moon mission. If nuclear ghosts could file noise complaints, they'd probably start with the Geiger counters. 3. Aokigahara, Japan. The forest that whispers, "Don't go there." At the base of Mount Fuji sits a forest so dense and eerily quiet, compasses stop working. It's known as the suicide forest. Cheerful, right? Hikers describe it as nature's version of a dial tone. All life, sound, and GPS vanish the moment you step in. Google Street View made a valiant effort, but stopped after a few test runs. The camera caught strange shadows and unexplainable figures, and the internet said, yeah, that's enough content for one lifetime. Aokigahara is proof that even trees can give off bad vibes. 4. Humberstone, Chile, the desert town that refused to die. In the middle of Chile's Atacama Desert lies Humberstone, a once thriving nitrate mining town now eerily frozen in time. The air is so dry that bodies don't rot. They just stay. Rusted playgrounds creak in the wind. The theater still has posters from the 1930s, and dolls left behind by miners' children stare with eyes that say, "We've been waiting." Google's car tried to capture it, but sandstorms kept burying the roads, almost like the desert itself was saying, "No visitors, please." If ghosts could file HOA complaints, Humberstone would top the list. 5. Kolmanskop, Namibia. The Sandbox. That Ada town deep in Namibia's desert lies Kolmanskop, a once booming diamond town now swallowed whole by sand. It was built by German settlers who struck it rich, then abandoned it when the diamonds ran out. Now, dunes pour through doorways, burying bathtubs and pianos alike. Every gust of wind rearranges the streets, like nature's slow-motion demolition crew. Google Street View tried to photograph it, but couldn't keep their equipment from filling with sand. The cameras literally choked. It's as if the desert was reclaiming what humans borrowed, grain by grain, whispering, "Nice try, colonizers." 6. Hoia Baciu Forest, Romania, Europe's Wi-Fi dead zone of doom. Locals call it the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. Trees here twist like they're trying to escape the ground, electronics die, and people report losing hours, sometimes days. A shepherd once walked in with 200 sheep and never came out. Google Street View gave it a shot, but the data came back corrupted, full of static and strange silhouettes that looked a little too human. It's one of those places where your GPS doesn't say recalculating. It just quietly turns off, like it knows better. If Scooby-Doo ever visited, even he'd file for early retirement. 7. Poveglia Island, Italy. The Venetian vacation from hell. Between Venice and Lido floats a tiny island so cursed even Italy won't market it as a tourist trap. It was once a quarantine zone for plague victims, then a mental asylum, because apparently bad ideas love company. Over 160,000 people died there, and locals still claim to hear screams drifting across the lagoon at night. When Google Street View boats tried to capture it, the feed glitched out, all black frames and static. Italy politely pretends it doesn't exist, like an embarrassing relative you don't talk about. If ghosts collected frequent flyer miles, this island would be fully booked. 8. Dudleytown, Connecticut, the village that deleted itself. They call it Connecticut's own cursed colony. Founded in the 1700s, it was abandoned after generations of bizarre accidents, suicides, and family disappearances. Locals say the entire Dudley family line was cursed, and judging by how fast their town vanished, they might have been onto something. The government banned visitors, citing safety, but residents nearby swear that compasses spin wildly and whispers echo through the empty woods. Google tried to map the site but found nothing. Literally blank frames, like the town refused to be photographed. It's America's way of saying, we may not have castles, but we've got haunted zoning. 9. Oradour-sur-Glane, France, the town that froze in a single afternoon. In 1944, Nazi forces massacred an entire French village in one horrific day. Then the government decided never to rebuild it. Instead, they left it exactly as it was. Rusted cars, shattered walls, melted clocks frozen at the hour of the attack. Walking through feels like stepping into a paused nightmare. Google Street View documented a few streets but stopped mid-route. The imagery fades abruptly, as if even the internet felt it was intruding. The silence there is so thick, it feels solid. A museum of horror, untouched by time, where even pixels seem to tread carefully. 10. Hashima Island, Japan, the concrete coffin of the sea. Imagine a city crammed onto a rock the size of a shopping mall. That was Hashima Island, also known as Battleship Island. Once home to over 5,000 coal miners, it now sits abandoned, slowly being devoured by the ocean. Every building is collapsing in on itself, every hallway filled with water, rust, and echoes. Google Street View actually got permission to map it, but the footage looks like a horror movie trailer. Endless gray, howling wind and walls that seem to breathe. Locals refuse to visit, calling it a city of restless workers. Even Japan's usually polite ghosts are said to slam doors there just to make a point. 11. Humber Valley Resort, Newfoundland, the million-dollar ghost town. This was supposed to be Canada's version of Aspen. Ski lodges, golf courses, rich tourists sipping overpriced cocoa. Instead, it turned into a monument to bad investment. Construction stopped mid-boom in the early 2000s, leaving behind half-built chalets, frozen swimming pools, and empty streets named after luxury dreams. The place feels less like a resort and more like someone hit pause on capitalism. When Google Street View tried to film it, the imagery came back foggy and glitchy, like the camera was embarrassed. It's proof that even billionaires can't outspend a curse. 12. Body, California, the ghost town that still gets mail. Back in the gold rush, Body was booming. Saloons, gunfights, the whole spaghetti western package. Then the gold ran out, everyone bailed, and the town froze in time. Today, it's an official state of arrested decay, meaning the government keeps it exactly as it was left, dust, decay, and all. Legend says anyone who takes even a pebble from Bodie will be cursed with years of misfortune. The park office gets dozens of apology letters every year from tourists mailing back stolen rocks, begging forgiveness. Google's mapping van stopped at the edge of town, either out of respect or because it didn't want to risk bad Wi-Fi and eternal doom. 13. Helltown, Ohio, the satanic suburb that wasn't supposed to exist. In the 1970s, the government bought up land in northern Ohio, evicted residents, and sealed off the roads for environmental protection. Within weeks, rumors exploded. Satanic cults, mutant snakes, ghost school buses. The truth? It's just an abandoned national park project. But the legends refuse to die. Locals say they still see flickering lights deep in the woods, and cars that follow them before vanishing. Google Street View's cameras didn't even make it past the road closed sign. Sometimes a place gets cursed not because of ghosts, but because humans can't stop making up better stories. 14. Humberstone Churchyard, England. The cemetery that moves itself. Locals in Humberstone swear the gravestones shift positions every year, not due to vandals, but by some unseen force. Photographs from the 1970s show different arrangements, and even Google's overhead maps never match year to year. The ground itself seems to ripple like it's alive. When Street View tried to capture it, half the gravestones appeared blurred, even though there were no people nearby. The Church of England calls it optical distortion. The villagers call it Tuesday. If ghosts ever form a union, this is where they'll hold their annual conference. 15. Sonjipod City, Taiwan, the abandoned UFO resort. Imagine the Jetsons designed a beach resort, then immediately went bankrupt. That's Sonjipod City, a cluster of pastel-colored UFO houses meant for wealthy vacationers in the 1980s. Before it opened, workers started dying in freak accidents, and construction stopped. Now, the pods sit empty, doors hanging open, windows staring blankly like dead robot eyes. Google's aerial imagery shows them perfectly symmetrical. Too perfect, almost unnatural. When drones fly over, their GPS goes haywire. Locals say the pods hum at night, like they're trying to call someone home. Probably their insurance agent. 16. Humberstone Correctional Colony, Argentina, the prison that guards itself. Hidden deep in Patagonia, this former penal colony was shut down decades ago, yet guards still report hearing the nightly roll call echoing from the empty cell blocks. The walls are covered in strange handprints, preserved in the salt wind like warnings. Google Street View attempted to capture it but pulled out after the cameras began shutting off inside the courtyard. Officially, it's too remote for maintenance. Unofficially, even drones won't go near it. Locals say the last warden cursed the place to keep prisoners from ever leaving. Joke's on him. The curse apparently applies to batteries too. 17. North Brother Island, New York, the Forgotten Plague Hospital. A short boat ride from Manhattan sits North Brother Island, where the city once dumped everything it didn't want to deal with, from quarantined smallpox patients to Typhoid Mary herself. The island's hospital was abandoned after the 1960s, and today, the buildings are being slowly strangled by vines. Google's Street View team never got permission to map it, but satellite images show something eerie. Faint lights at night, even though the island has no power. It's like New York's secret guilt still glows faintly offshore. Nothing says romantic skyline quite like an abandoned disease lab. 18. The Paris Catacombs, France, the world's creepiest basement. Beneath the City of Love lies the City of Bones, 6 million skeletons stacked neatly like macabre wallpaper. Originally a limestone quarry, it became an underground ossuary when Paris ran out of cemetery space. Google tried to film it, but the narrow tunnels made the tech glitch out. One camera even recorded whispers in a corridor marked as inaccessible. Locals call it the Belly of Paris, which is fitting. It's beautiful, haunting, and you absolutely shouldn't go exploring after midnight unless you enjoy being lost forever with strangers who can't blink. 19. Gunkanjima Island, Japan, the real-life dystopia. The Japanese called it Gunkanjima, Battleship Island. Once packed with miners, families, and factories, it was abandoned overnight when the coal ran out. The government sealed it off for decades. When Google finally brought their camera crew, the footage looked like something out of Blade Runner. Concrete ruins, ghostly corridors, and waves pounding at the edges of civilization. Viewers reported motion sickness watching it, not because of bad editing, but because the whole island felt wrong. Even the seagulls won't land there for long. It's like the ocean itself is trying to erase the evidence of human greed. 20. Nagoro, Japan. The Village of Dolls population, 27 humans, 350 dolls. After the villagers left or passed away, one woman began replacing them with life-sized puppets. They sit at bus stops, work in fields, and even attend fake town meetings. Google Street View caught the village mid-silence, hundreds of stitched faces staring straight at the camera, frozen mid-chore. The images are somehow more unnerving than if it were empty. It's as if the dolls know the show must go on, even without an audience. If Pixar ever makes Toy Story 5, existential horror, this is the set. Number 21. Kayaköy, Turkey, the village history. Forgot once a lively Greek village, Kayaköy was abandoned in the 1920s during a population exchange between Greece and Turkey. Houses still stand roofless, lined up like dominoes frozen mid-collapse. The wind there sounds like whispering, maybe from the thousands who left and never came back. Google Street View documented part of it, but the camera malfunctioned near the old chapel, producing frames with streaks of red light. Locals say the ghosts of the displaced still wander the streets, waiting for someone to remember their names. It's less a haunting and more a historical guilt trip that won't end. 22. The Door to Hell, Turkmenistan. The campfire from another dimension. In 1971, Soviet scientists accidentally set a natural gas crater on fire, expecting it to burn out in a few weeks. Over 50 years later, it's still burning, a pit of eternal flames in the middle of the Karakum Desert. Google's drone footage struggled with the heat distortion. The flames warped the lens, making the pit look like it was breathing. Locals call it the Gate to Hell, and standing near it feels like opening your oven while Satan's making s'mores. You can't even roast marshmallows. They'd vaporize mid-air. It's the perfect tourist spot for people who like their vacations dangerously. Flammable. 23. Varosha, Cyprus, the beach resort that time erased. In the 1970s, Varosha was Europe's glittering Riviera. Elizabeth Taylor vacationed there. Then came the Turkish invasion, and everyone fled overnight. Hotels still have champagne bottles on tables, shops still display mannequins in bell-bottoms, and cars are parked mid-escape. The entire district was fenced off and left to rot in silence. When Google tried to map it, military officials blocked access, claiming security concerns. Translation: it's a Cold War time capsule too eerie to touch. Even seagulls avoid the shoreline, probably because they don't want to photobomb history's saddest postcard. 24. Humberstone Mansion, Barbados, the house that breathes. Local legend says the mansion's walls literally inhale and exhale. Built by a sugar baron who vanished mysteriously, the house now sits crumbling on a cliff, windows shattered, curtains still swaying, even when there's no wind. Google Street View tried to document it, but the images came back blurred, as if someone smeared Vaseline over the lens. Engineers blamed humidity. Locals blamed the ghosts of unpaid servants. Either way, the house doesn't want visitors. You can almost hear it sigh. Another influencer with a GoPro? Please. 25. Bannock, Montana. The gold rush that never moved on. Bannock was the first territorial capital of Montana, built on gold, greed, and gunfire. When the mines dried up, everyone bolted, leaving behind saloons, gallows, and a schoolhouse that still smells like chalk and paranoia. Park rangers claim they hear children's laughter in the dead of night, which, statistically, is never good news. When Google's camera van arrived, the road mysteriously flooded, even though it hadn't rained in weeks. Locals shrugged and said, "Yeah, that happens." It's like the Wild West decided to keep one town on retainer, just to scare tourists straight. 26. Craco, Italy, the hilltop. That gave up on gravity built 1,000 years ago, Craco was once a beautiful medieval village, until the earth itself got tired of holding it up. Landslides sent entire streets sliding downhill, and the last residents evacuated in the 1960s. Today, the village clings to its cliffside like it's auditioning for a disaster movie. Google tried to map the narrow streets but couldn't keep signal. The cliffs mess with everything. Filmmakers love the place. Locals call it the balcony of ghosts. When your town doubles as a movie set for the apocalypse, you don't need tourism slogans. 27. Humberstone Air Base, Russia, the runway to nowhere. Somewhere in Siberia lies an abandoned Soviet airbase that still registers on radar, even though the hangars collapsed decades ago. Locals say the runway lights flicker on by themselves, triggered by phantom flights that never land. Google Earth captured strange heat signatures on the tarmac, shaped like jet engines. The military dismissed it as data corruption. Sure, because nothing says normal like ghost planes taxiing at 2 a.m. It's the kind of place where even satellites look down and say, "Nope, not my problem." 28. Belitz Heilstätten Hospital, Germany, the world's creepiest Airbnb. Once a luxurious tuberculosis sanatorium, Belitz later became a Nazi military hospital, then a Soviet base. Today, it's a decaying labyrinth of moldy hallways and surgical theaters frozen in time. And yes, you can book a night there for the experience. Google tried to map it, but one of their photographers quit mid-job, claiming he saw movement in the empty operating room. The place is now famous for ghost tours and Instagrammers who all swear they captured something in the background. It's like if Silent Hill offered breakfast in bed. 29. Humberston Lighthouse, Newfoundland, the light that never went out. This isolated lighthouse was decommissioned decades ago, yet locals still see its beam cutting through fog on stormy nights. Power lines were removed, the bulbs smashed, and still, it glows. Google Street View skipped it, but fishermen caught footage showing the light flaring exactly at 3:33 a.m. every few nights. Historians say it's electrical interference. Sailors say it's the keeper who drowned there in 1912, still clocking in for work. Either way, if your job follows you into the afterlife, that's not loyalty. That's poor union representation. 30. Chernobyl Amusement Park, Ukraine, the Ferris wheel. That never spun, it was built for May Day 1986, meant to be a celebration of Soviet joy. The disaster struck days before opening, and the rides were never used. Now the Ferris wheel stands motionless, its yellow cars rusting in radioactive wind. Google's radiation-safe drones filmed it once. The footage flickers, colors bleeding like a dying film reel. Tour guides say it creaks on windless days, as if still waiting for laughter that will never come. It's not an amusement park anymore. It's a monument to the day fun officially ran out of fuel. 31. The Winchester Mystery House, California, the mansion that forgot how walls work. Sarah Winchester, heir to the rifle fortune, was convinced she was haunted by the spirits of everyone ever shot with her family's guns. Her solution? Keep building. For 38 years straight. Staircases lead into ceilings, doors open to 30-foot drops, and windows look into other rooms instead of outside. It's like an Escher painting had a panic attack. Google Street View tried mapping the interior. The camera kept getting lost, and the data produced hallways that didn't exist. Engineers said it was a glitch. Paranormal investigators said the ghosts were doing renovations. Either way, it's the only house where even Google can't find an exit. 32. The Island of the Dolls, Mexico, Barbie's nightmare retirement home. South of Mexico City lies an island covered in hundreds of rotting dolls. Their glass eyes follow you, their limbs dangle from trees, and their smiles have decayed into something far less friendly. The caretaker once hung them to ward off spirits. Now they're the main attraction. When Google sent a Street View boat, one of the cameras caught what looked like a doll turning its head mid-frame. They deleted the image, but the internet remembers. It's the only place where even plastic refuses to decompose, probably because it's too busy plotting. 33. The Villisca Axe Murder House, Iowa, America's least inviting Airbnb. In 1912, an entire family was slaughtered in their sleep, and no one was ever caught. The house has been preserved exactly as it was, right down to the children's toys. Overnight stays are allowed, for those who enjoy ghostly tapping, whispered names, and sudden cold spots. Google's indoor mapping project declined, saying lighting limitations. Translation: they didn't want to be next on the guest list. Paranormal shows love it, but the locals just call it the house that still hasn't exhaled. It's the only Airbnb where your checkout time depends on whether the ghost lets you leave. 34. Ross Island Penal Colony, India, the prison nature took back. Once a British penal settlement, Ross Island was abandoned after an earthquake and Japanese occupation. Now, banyan trees have grown through its courthouses and churches, swallowing everything in green silence. Google Earth shows it as a shimmering blur, too much reflective canopy, too little solid ground. Locals swear that at dusk, you can hear chains clinking beneath the roots. It's as if the forest decided to file a class-action lawsuit against colonization. And won. 35. The Catacombs of Palermo, Italy, the selfie museum of the macabre picture. This, thousands of mummified bodies, still dressed in their Sunday best, hanging from the walls of a monastery. It's real, and open to tourists. The monks believed preserving corpses this way helped keep them closer to God. Judging by the smell, maybe a little too close. Google avoided mapping it entirely after privacy concerns. Apparently, the dead didn't sign a release form. One particularly famous mummy, a little girl named Rosalia Lombardo, still looks alive after a century. Locals say she opens her eyes sometimes. If she ever blinks on camera, I'm deleting the internet. 36. The Salton Sea, California, the beach resort that mutated. Once hyped as Palm Springs with water, the Salton Sea turned into a toxic soup of dead fish, bird bones, and dreams. Decades of agricultural runoff poisoned the lake, leaving the air thick with rot. Whole neighborhoods stand abandoned, graffiti baking in the sun. Google Street View caught the shoreline, bleached white like snow, except it's fish bones. Environmentalists call it a disaster. Influencers call it aesthetic. It's one of the few beaches where SPF 100 won't save you, but a gas mask might. 37. The Oak Island Money Pit, Canada, the hole that ate everyone's retirement. For over 200 years, treasure hunters have been digging the same hole on a small island off Nova Scotia, convinced there's something buried deep within. Pirate gold, the Holy Grail, maybe just a very expensive prank. Every attempt ends the same: collapses, floods, and financial ruin. Even Google gave up trying to scan it via satellite. The terrain data constantly resets, like the island's rebooting itself. The only real treasure there is the millions wasted by people who refuse to quit. Oak Island is proof that curiosity doesn't kill the cat, it just maxes out its credit cards. 38. The Tower of Silence, India, the place where even vultures retired. In Mumbai, there's a circular stone tower where followers of Zoroastrianism once left their dead to be consumed by birds. Sky burials, the original zero-waste funerals. But when pollution wiped out the vultures, the bodies just stayed. Today, it's sealed off, overgrown, and perpetually avoided by drones and Google Maps alike. From above, the tower appears blurred, like the digital world itself doesn't want to look. Locals say it's still sacred. Outsiders call it the world's creepiest waiting room. Either way, you're not getting 5 stars for the view. 39. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch, the continent. No one admits owning. Floating somewhere between California and Japan is a mass of plastic so vast it's technically visible from space, a nation of trash roughly twice the size of Texas. Google Earth refuses to render it clearly. The algorithm can't tell if it's land or just shame. It's the first country built entirely on poor recycling habits and collective denial. If Google ever launches Street View there, they'll need more than a camera. They'll need therapy. 40. The Paris Metro Catacombs Extension, the illegal underground city. Below Paris's official tunnels lies an unofficial one, miles of abandoned subway routes colonized by artists, squatters, and the occasional secret cinema. Google tried mapping it once. Their footage ended abruptly when the camera malfunctioned. Rumor says the camera crew found an entire theater down there, lit candles, chairs, and a film projector still running. The movie? The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Nothing says, "Don't come back," like an unmarked cinema run by ghosts with great taste. 41. The Nazca Lines, Peru, the drawings that refuse to explain themselves. Giant desert carvings of monkeys, hummingbirds, and astronauts stretch for miles across Peru, but only visible from the air. They're thousands of years old, perfectly straight, and still unsolved. Google Earth photographed them, sure, but when engineers checked the raw satellite data, they found new lines nobody had seen before. No explanation, no footprints, just fresh geoglyphs. Either aliens are still doodling, or the Earth is quietly keeping score. 42. The Pyramid Settlement, Svalbard, the Soviet Atlantis. An Arctic ghost town that once hosted 1,000 miners and a Lenin statue that's still staring out at the snow. The Soviets built a utopia at the end of the world, then walked away, leaving everything, bowling alleys, records, and even milk cartons, perfectly preserved in permafrost. Google Street View couldn't handle the magnetic interference. Compasses spin like disco balls. Today, the only residents are polar bears and the world's coldest propaganda. It's like the USSR left a time capsule, and the time capsule called for backup. 43. The Stull Cemetery, Kansas. The gateway nobody asked for. Locals say the devil himself visits this tiny rural graveyard twice a year. One night, a priest's body allegedly vanished from its coffin, and weirdly, Google Maps once showed a circular sinkhole there that isn't visible in person. Satellite glitch or a spiritual black hole? Either way, Stull's church ruins have become the Midwest's least romantic date spot. When the wind howls through the gravestones, it doesn't sound like ghosts. It sounds like a warning. No trespassing, especially on Halloween. 44. The Alnwick Poison Garden, England, the only garden that can kill you. Every plant here can hurt, paralyze, or flat out end you. Visitors are only allowed in with a guide and a waiver. Google Street View politely skipped it since, privacy concerns. The signs literally say, "These plants can kill," and yet tourists lean in for selfies like it's Disneyland. Humanity's problem isn't curiosity. It's confidence without a helmet. 45. The Lake Natron, Tanzania, the mirror that turns life to stone. Lake Natron's surface looks like glass, but touch it and you'll regret existing. Its water is so alkaline it petrifies anything that falls in. Birds, insects, even unlucky drones. Google's satellite captured hauntingly still statues floating near the shore, perfectly preserved animals in mid-flight. Locals believe the lake is cursed. Scientists call it chemistry. Either way, it's not a great spot for a swim. 46. The ruins of Orpheus Island, Australia. The hotel that drowned in the 1980s, this luxury resort promised 5-star paradise. Instead, it got hit by 3 cyclones, 2 bankruptcies, and 1 mysterious fire. Now it's an overgrown skeleton, coral creeping into the pool and vines strangling the cabanas. When Google's mapping drone flew over, its GPS shut down mid-flight and started circling endlessly, like it didn't want to leave. Somewhere out there, a ghost concierge is still waiting for a check-in that never came. 47. The Bhangar Fort, India, the village that vanished overnight. This 17th century fort is so haunted that India's government literally put up a sign saying, "No entry after sunset." Legend says a sorcerer cursed the entire town after Z being rejected by a princess, because nothing haunts history like male ego. When Google Earth scanned it, shadow anomalies appeared and then disappeared between frames. Locals say anyone who sleeps there never wakes up. It's the kind of tourist spot where even your phone battery knows better. 48. The Dyatlov Pass, Russia, the hike that ended with Theories 9. Experienced hikers, 1959, one mysterious night. Their tent ripped open from the inside, bodies found scattered in the snow, some barefoot, some glowing with radiation. The official explanation? Unknown compelling force. That's government speak for, we also have nightmares. Google Earth shows the site as a perfectly white void, like the map itself refuses to remember. If any place deserves the title cursed, it's the one where even history won't walk alone. Still think ghosts aren't real? Even Google refuses to argue. Pick your favorite cursed spot below.